Shut up and sit down.
By all means, go for it. Have fun. Just leave me alone.
People are coming together more and more and more and more as the government has been failing us more and more.
I'm against being shitty to people.
You can't research your way into understanding somebody better than they understand themselves. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Fight for Liberty show. We've got an awesome show for you guys tonight. This one, as all of them, brought to you by Nug of Knowledge. If you guys haven't done this already, which I'm very ashamed if you haven't, go on over to nugofknowledge.com. Check out all of the new things that we have. We actually just added a bunch of new products this last week. So go check those out and use promo, get 10% off on your first purchase and help out awesome people in the Liberty movement like myself, the other guys at FSM, Dan Berman, Tom Queter, all the cool people. So go on over nugofknowledge.com, promo code UNITE, and check out all the fun things. Tonight, we have an awesome guest, somebody that's been in the same circles as me for a little while, but we've never actually gotten to have a cool conversation, so I'm excited. He's running for Secretary of the Libertarian National Committee. Tyler Smith, welcome to the show.
Hi, David. Good to be here. Happy to be here, actually.
All right. So I'd like to start out by just kind of getting like your libertarian testimony. So I'm curious, like, what was the first policy overlap between yourself and libertarianism that you noticed or were told about?
This is normally one I have like on a recorder in my head all the time because it doesn't change. I was actually in the military. My first disconnect with our government was during deployment in Afghanistan. I did a few stints at various locations throughout the world, Afghanistan being one of them, where I spent some time working around the hospital, everything like that, and there were some things that were seen and everything. It started to make me start questioning what we were doing there, what was our purpose in the Middle East. And I would suppose the first policy overlap would be getting into and studying our foreign policy and the history of why our involvement in the Middle East even came to such a boiling point. And shortly thereafter, I was seeing a few other veteran buddies of mine that we're still friends to this day, and we happened to see a little bit of coverage online about the Libertarian Convention going on at the time. And, we started actually paying attention, and a few of us are still involved to this day. Even if we're not under the big L banner, we're still fighting for libertarian causes and philosophy. One notable is he came with me to the Missouri Convention a few weeks ago, Justice Thomas up in Kansas City, who's been up there working with local groups to fight for criminal justice reform and everything, especially in the wake of the George Floyd issues, the Breonna Taylor issue, everything like that. So, I would say that my inspiration to become and start getting more involved with the libertarian movement started back in the early 2010s, as it were, and being very disappointed in, my manipulation into serving an imperialist force. So,
Who is the candidate that came out of that convention you watched? Would that have been Johnson in 2012?
Yeah.
Okay. That's I actually don't meet very many people that came in from Johnson 2012. It's usually like Ron Paul 08 or Johnson 2016. I don't meet a lot of people in the middle there.
Well, I'll be honest with you. Official Libertarian Party records won't show me actually claiming membership up until very recently, a few years ago. But I started getting involved in actually like studying libertarian candidates, started like paying lip service, finally got involved a little bit after Pride in Indianapolis. I think it was probably 2015, more for the proper libertarian channels. But I've claimed and fought for libertarian philosophy probably since about 2011. So
nice. That's awesome. So I want to talk a little bit about that. As you said, being manipulated into fighting for an imperialist force. I've talked to quite a few people, and especially in the wake of Memorial Day, I got to have this conversation a lot over the weekend, and I did a live stream on Memorial Day that most people didn't like. In-person conversations were a lot better, and just trying to kind of gauge how that feels coming out of it, and knowing that that's what happened. Can you kind of touch on that and explain what it's like to now be an anti-war activist?
Honestly, I kind of made a lot of my point. I stayed silent most of the weekend. Finally the day hit, and I started thinking, and my stance on it is probably the same thing that's been regurgitated: honor them by bringing them home. But it goes much deeper than that for me. Some people are like, that's politicizing it and everything like that. It's like, no, there are people I know that have lost loved ones. There are people that I personally interact with day to day that have gold stars hanging on their door and everything. And to be quite honest, if you knowing what I've learned from understanding what I took part in and how it contributed to that person's ultimate demise, and is frustrating. And to me, the only proper way to honor that and to actually, do their families justice who are still alive and suffering because of it, because that doesn't go away just because, that conflict happens to end or anything like that. The only way to actually bring that peace is to stop creating an environment where more families are hanging those banners on their door, to actually, bring honor back to their sacrifice, because their sacrifice did bring to light the issues that our government does cause, whether it is domestically or abroad. I advocate that on the premise that the only way to honor it is stop creating more folded flags at funerals, and stop creating more broken families and more people that hate us, and continue this perpetuation of conflict overseas. So, yeah. So it's a very touchy subject. I could go on and on and on about it, but that's the general thought I have on it. So.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's definitely not a topic that a lot of people like to talk about, and I got yelled at for talking about it as not a veteran, and I think that's we've outlawed a lot of topics in conversation in our everyday lives at this point. And we were, I don't know about you, but I was raised like, you don't talk about politics, you don't talk about religion, you don't talk about how old somebody is, or how much they weigh or how much they make. That's right. All off topic. And now we live in a world where no one really understands how other people's lives work, because we weren't allowed to talk about them, and we don't understand how much other people make and how that pay disproportionately works. We don't understand how to talk about politics and how politics actually works, because we went 3 generations without saying anything other than I voted. And it's a cyclical problem, I think, but it's important to kind of bring them back up.
Yeah, and it's in a probably the most layman's way I could put it. It's a dumbing down of our society in a way, because it's like, when you don't talk about politics turns into personal attacks, and not just doing that, like committing them, but also feeling like somebody having a different standpoint is now a personal attack on you. And that's not the case in a lot of political topics. When we go into socioeconomic or social issues in general, that there's a lot of nuance that can be had. But as far as like political topics that are purely political, the economy and things like that, it's turned into these reactionaries, and reactionism begets reactionism. George Bush begot Obama, Obama begat Trump, so.
Mm-hmm. True that. It was a very trendy move, that just very straight down trend from the get-go, pretty much as long as I can remember. Right. I was born in Clinton era, and that I don't really remember Clinton, and so I basically only remember the 3 you just mentioned, and they all fucking sucked.
I come from an era of right as Daddy Bush was winding down on his term, and his last term, and when Bill came into office, and I've got a little bit of marginal knowledge just because that was my formative years and everything. So of like him, but my first dive into politics was as a Republican. I don't want to say activist because it was more just I put door hangers on doors. I didn't really do anything other than, hey, you should vote for this guy.
Hey, that's activism.
Right. But I remember the first time I actually did that was for I want to say it was John Schott in West Virginia. So, but it's definitely become going back to the topics of conversation that we're just not allowed to touch. That's one of my favorite things to talk about, even though it's like, you get a lot of people that are like, you can't do that, you're going to start a fight. I was like, watch me. And then it turns out, no, we're sitting there, we're doing shots together. Somebody calls me a filthy capitalist, I call them a dirty communist, and we just move on and we have a good time. Mm-hmm. And I've made several friends from across the political spectrum. And I think a big hand in that, kind of touching on what we've discussed, maybe discussing tonight, technology has played a big hand in both opening up those avenues of conversation for amicability, but also has opened up a lot of people to be, pardon my French, absolute assholes to each other. So,
yeah, and you don't have to pardon your French. We can curse on this show all you want. But right. That you actually perfect segue, because my next question was, how do you think the rise of technology has affected politics as of late? There was a what was that little era between 2016 and 2020? Anyway, yeah, like that whole thing, the whole thing with technology and its effect on politics, it's been a discussion point probably since around the second time Obama got elected, for sure. And a lot of that came up, and even the Libertarian Party was touched on as being one of the first people kind of like to have issues with it because of data policy and data privacy and everything. But then it turned into this whole, we actually discussed it last night when I was at Chicago Libertarian Party's Zoom meeting. We talked about how it has actually opened up a lot of communications. People are recognizing their individuality, but they're also able to communicate with people who may not align with them, with each other's viewpoints. But we all come to the same end point, where it is the government's not working for us, but they're definitely, and we start to realize they are relying on our hatred for one another, and so I think it's a double-edged sword, really. Like it can absolutely be a weapon, especially the Libertarian Party can use in this day and age, where the Republicans are splitting, the Democrats are imploding, and we have a lot of people looking into us, the Greens, even the DSA, as much as people might hate to admit it, but they're looking into third parties right now. And we even have a guy here in Arizona running for governor right now in the Green Party, who's already got ads out and like getting people to respond to them, and like getting some people to come to his events and everything, because people are starting to realize through the advancements of technology and technological communication, we can actually work together and bring about the change that we all want. Whether or not we have some philosophical disagreements, what we do understand is, if we want a better society, we have to work together. And we didn't have that prior to Facebook and everything. We had MySpace, but all we were concerned about at that point was, why am I not in your top 5? But now we've got actual avenues to talk with each other. So, and now we literally just make top 5 threads on Twitter just to do the same thing.
Right. Like, I'm gonna unfollow you.
The pettiest bullshit. It's like I'm gonna make a list just to exclude some people.
Right. Yeah.
It's always a good time. Yeah, I agree. It's definitely a double-edged sword that has been used for good and for evil. I'm intrigued by. I think it's really useful for the specific people that we're targeting, and we're using social media really well, I think, as a movement at the moment. We're online right now, and using technology, something that we've been fairly good at ish as a movement over the last couple of years, but it's helped in conditioning the country against us and our message. a lot better, I think, so far. It's been used for spreading propaganda and fostering that divisiveness that you're talking about.
And that's the big thing, because it definitely has to come with actually going out and showing what we're doing. We went out with the Libertarian Party of Tennessee, lots of online stuff going on over there. Like they got their own stuff going on, and some people know about it, some people don't. But they got together and they put together a really good event, outreach to their community. And not just trying to grow or not just trying to politicize or anything or politic or anything like that. They were actually, giving back to their community. They were showing the examples of voluntary nature. It's showing the government didn't need to be involved for us to take care of our fellow man. When I went over there, we went out, and it was a brilliant event organized by Chelsea Baker of Tennessee's party. We volunteered, I believe it was at the Journey Home in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, fed about a dozen homeless people from around the area. But then we went around to the encampments that were in the surrounding area of Murfreesboro and in Murfreesboro and delivered food. It was Fite, Cohen, Brent DeRitter. A lot of us came together to help do that, to actually show, we can walk the walk. We can do that. And, even in that sense, it comes with, you can communicate and get people on your side from, New York to Arizona, and you can sit there and talk and get your ideas out there and realize, hey, we can work together. It's another thing entirely to also act upon that and show that we are trying to improve our society. We're trying to make life better for everyone, not just a group of elites that honestly don't give a crap other than our vote and our tax dollars. But
right. Yeah, it gives us the ability to look to the outside world as though we are doing things because we're active on social media, but in reality, tweeting isn't really doing things. It is in some ways, not to discredit those friends of ours in social media management, but it's not.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. It's not like you're saying of getting out into the community, actually making those bridges. But the more you're on Twitter and the less you're out in your community, the more followers you get, the more popular you get, and the more it looks like you're actually doing things. So we have people in the movement that are out here, doing more than most of the other people I know that have 200 followers on Twitter, and no one knows who they are. And you say their name and everybody's like, huh, what? Who's that? They don't do anything.
Yeah, and then it's actually funny because me and my fiance were actually talking about somebody that's apparently popular on YouTube, and I have no idea who it is, but apparently everybody else in our circle does, because that's what they do. They're this YouTube person, whatever. I mean, I'm out doing things, everything like that. I'm going to work. I've got vet appointment for the dog. I don't know, but it's
you're talking about me, aren't you?
Kind of the same premise, but at the same time, I'm not gonna cast any type of aspersion on somebody in social media work and stuff like that, because that is a platform to reach a lot more people than just, a local neighborhood or something like that. So I feel like there is a way for it to mesh. And I think there is a way for the Libertarian Party, especially with the amount of activists we actually do have that do the footwork and do a lot of the hard physical labor of getting our message out there. These people that are, I heard a term, and I'm not sure if it's pejorative or not, but cyber activists, these people that are doing what they're doing are actually, they can work in conjunction with each other and actually create and foster a new and more free society and a more freer direction forward. So,
yeah, it's about using the people that are good at what they're good at for what they're good at. Actually, I was in a Zoom call with Spike earlier today where he monologued about this for a little bit. We have, like you said, we have a bunch of activists and we have a bunch of people that are good at social media, but at the moment our activists are out there doing a bunch of stuff and no one knows about it, and we have a bunch of people on social media that people on social media know and they're not doing anything. And if we could just have the social media people telling everyone about the other people, we'd have a great system. But that would require libertarians working together.
Right. That's the kicker. Because that is where the other side of that story comes in. Because again, when you're behind a keyboard and not actually interacting with people, you get a little bit more bold. You want to be a little bit more of a jerk to somebody that you feel is personally attacking you, just because they have a difference in opinion. And that's where I am hoping to bridge a gap, because like, we're not going to ignore the elephant in the room. I told myself I wouldn't, so I'm not going to let anybody else do it. There is a big war going on within our party and everything, and we need to me, that's the big thing we can't ignore. I don't take a side on it personally. Do I still have you? You're frozen.
Okay, there we go.
There we go. I was like, do I still have you? You were frozen for a little bit.
Yeah, my internet just decided it wanted to crash. So good. All right. My bad. Where were you?
But I was talking about the elephant in the room. There is a bit of a little bit of a factional war going on within the party right now, and that a lot of that is fueled by the negative side of technology's impact on politics. And again, it's like it turns these conversation pieces into, in terms of politics and philosophical leanings, everything, into personal attacks on one another, when there really isn't one. It's just somebody believes that there should be communal property. The other person's like, no, that's mine. I mean, we don't live in a utopia yet, but we don't live in a utopia. We can't have that discussion really until we actually start breaking down these structures of the state that have created the reason these are even conflicts of interest for what I refer to as us plebes. And that's what we are in the terms of these arguments and stuff like that, because it doesn't help advance anything other than you get to sit there and go to bed saying, I was right on Twitter today. Like, that's cool. I mean, good on you. I mean, if that's a self-esteem booster, go for it. But there's a lot of work to be done. And I have full faith that everybody that came to this movement and is in this movement didn't choose that they want to join some fringe third party that up until recently had no chance of winning elections. Mm-hmm. Nobody just does that because they want to be an edgelord. There is at least a little part of them that is here to try and make a difference. Mm-hmm. And I want to believe that we can all unite on that fact and actually get that done. And that is the whole thing that I'm trying to promote now, with going around not just to conventions, but to activists outreach. What am I doing? In Boston on July 5th, we're going up there and doing something. And we're actually rallying with a bunch of other groups that are trying to fight for things like criminal justice reform, get rescheduling marijuana and things like that. We were actually trying to work with groups. Philosophically, I may not agree with them, because to my knowledge, there's going to be people that are of green affiliations, transhumanist affiliations, things like that. I'm not going to agree with them on everything. Personally, I'm a libertarian. I don't want a cyber chip for a brain, but I'm not going to argue with the transhumanist about it. It's one of those things. We're there to actually make a difference and push for dissolving the state, at least where it's oppressing us the most. And that's where we need to focus on, because the more we don't focus on it, the more of a foot in the door they're going to have on our personal lives. So.
Right. Yeah, you bring up an important point there of where the state is doing the worst. It's a clear and logical assessment in most scenarios. I actually had to close out Twitter earlier because of what you were talking about, where I was getting that like keyboard warrior masculinity and just like right. And I was going off on some people, and I was just like, okay, I need to walk away. I'm in a bad mood. Like, this is just, it needs to stop. But one person was, they were trying to make the correlation of like Raytheon to, because Chase posted about, if we're going to stop welfare, we should stop the welfare that's going to the military industrial complex first. And somebody was like, why make the distinction? It's like, we're not making the distinction. There's already a pretty clear distinction between like a mom on food stamps and Raytheon. Like, they're in different categories. The Libertarian Party doesn't need to create that distinction. Everyone in the world can agree that like one of these things is worse than the other.
I think that's our biggest problem, especially we do have, and maybe I'm a little biased, but we have some of amongst the brightest people that are within this movement. And I feel like it kind of glosses over that there is, unfortunately, a societal construct and a societal perception of how these things are. The clear distinctions are drawn for these people who, I think Chrissy Wickers refers to them as normies. Like, there is a clear distinction to these people, and we need to stop glossing it. We've come to that point. We've got it. We get it. We have to understand not everybody's there yet. Mm-hmm. And myself being a Black Flag anarchist, I had the distinct pleasure of talking with somebody who identifies more as a little bit of a minarchist last night. And sure, they were sitting there poking some holes in like things that I personally do believe in and everything I got. But at the same time, I had to arrive to those things, and maybe it could be vice versa. I don't know. I'm not God. I'm not an all-seeing eye. Maybe the minarchist in question was absolutely correct, and I'm missing something logically. But at the end of the day, we all believed in absolute freedom for the individual, and distinctions philosophically, and coming to these conclusions, and understanding distinctions are already drawn. We didn't have to create them. That's the only way we're going to convey and actually grow this movement, in my personal opinion, and get people who are actually willing to come in and work in cohesive units together to build it. So,
yeah. So let's talk a little bit about how we build it. You're running for secretary, and I know a big chunk of what you want to do is bringing the LP finally into the 21st century, because we're not here yet. And so tell me a little bit about what you're planning on doing on the LNC, but also just like in the movement in general, how we can help have that infrastructure.
Well, I'm hoping, and just let me preface everything. My opponent, I admire her very dearly. I think Karen Ann has been a powerhouse for liberty for years. I think there has been a lot of stuff that she has been unfairly dealt, and there have probably been things that maybe she has been fairly dealt, but that doesn't change the fact that she has put in the work. She has shown dedication and love for this party. So if she does beat me in Reno, that's absolutely okay, because the Libertarian still wins because they have a passionate person in that seat that is ready to put in work. That said, I guess my plans are with the modernization aspect of it. I do plan to bring in some more transparency, not just for just the delegates, because that comes across like we're just doing things just to get votes and support of people who are coming in and throwing money at us. But we have membership that that could be that mom on food stamps, that could be, we have membership that needs to know what's going on, that they can reach out to us about their issues and we can address them, because we are the political force of the people. And as cliche as that is to sound, we're probably the only one left at this point. It's not this collective ideology. We're actually fighting for an individual's right. And that's the whole point of it for me. So modernizing it and through getting us off certain platforms for LNC meetings and allowing more viewership and participation from the membership to put their voice in, making their voices heard. I've talked with you, I think, and a couple of other people a little bit about, maybe looking into alternative voting styles and how we handle things at national, because I believe that can build a more cohesive membership and probably stop a lot of this fractionalizing that's going on. At the same time, getting reports put out, like, I'm working with teams right now that are actually helping me develop and understand a little bit more through applications via phone or even computer to get meeting minutes with the LNC put out. I've been studying things like different parliamentary procedures. Like, I cannot tell you, I've got the words Atwood and Martha running through my head along with Robert, trying to figure out how we can get something that is a little bit more expedient in terms of getting stuff done. Because if we are going to get stuff done as a party, administratively, what I can do is try to help us get there while the Republicans and Democrats are essentially shooting themselves in the foot. So that being said, it's like I've been to a few states now where they're using, porcupine-like apps and stuff like that, but they've actually got mind and membership on it that have developed it to make it move quicker. I think California was the most recent one I went to, and they were popping through business like it was nothing. And it was kind of astounding to see, like, I think they actually finished on time which, in libertarian circles is a little bit unheard of.
I've never been to a meeting that finished on time.
And they are the largest delegation in the country. If they can do it, I fully believe, along with places like Missouri who were like playing with it, Indiana who did a little bit with it, Tennessee who did things with it. If they can do it, and those 4 states, arguably like medium to the largest size delegations in the country, I think we can actually find a way for our 1,000+ delegation to actually make stuff happen, get the business done. Then start going through how we can pass resolutions, how we can, start developing different ideas from different parts of the country while we are all there to actually put our minds together in person. And to me, there's also ways to handle this, like developing tutorials. And, I work very closely with Caitlin Cloven as my campaign director and everything. And she is brilliant when it comes to that. I have no doubt in my mind that if we could actually get her to come on, she could help us develop how to like work with the marketing, how to make it more transparent, how to make it accessible for people who are like in 6 Miles, South Carolina, where internet's shoddy, how to make it to where they can still, participate. Even if like, one day there's a horrible storm and the internet gets knocked out, at least if they've got it done and submitted, it will come through on a server. We can get their voices heard. It's just a matter of getting the development, getting the specifics knocked down. But we can't do it when it's just 5 or 6 of us. We have to consult with everybody from across the country because we, at this point, are the only third party with all 50 state representation. And we have to take into account that those people do often get overlooked. I can't tell you how many times I've actually heard it from people who live in West Virginia or people that live, what is the one state, like Montana. Like people get overlooked, and delegations especially, because they are in rural areas, they're in a little bit of underdeveloped and poorer parts of the country. And we have to figure out how to modernize and effectively do so for all of them as well. So I don't want anybody to like think like, if we do this, we're going to forget like, somebody that maybe 80 years old doesn't understand how to use it. We're also trying to plan out how to simplify it so it is one of those easy push a button, go after you're done reading, you understand what's going on. Same thing with releasing minutes and meeting notes, updates, newsletters, Lpedia even, like getting it moved to a more user-friendly interface and getting it to where people can actually, go in, get information, register what's going on. So that's a little bit of like the topical thing of what I want to do. And, like as it develops, of course, we will be making releases of what we've come up with, how we would plan to implement it and everything. We've got, I believe it's a year left at this point. We've got a lot of time and a lot of brilliant minds working on it over here. And I have faith in all of them. And I absolutely believe we can bring this party to become the most formidable political force since the inception of the Democrats and the Republicans. So.
I love it. You've touched on a lot of things there that I'm going to try to remember to go back to all of them. But firstly, I want to go back because you mentioned alternative voting systems. And I think that that's something that I'm really passionate about as an activist. And, I work with Equal Vote and Represent Us and a bunch of other organizations on this. And there's a lot of libertarians on board, and the LP in New York City went pretty hard on helping push for ranked choice voting, which we passed last year in our municipal primaries. We've been pretty loud about this, and we talk about how the duopoly is inevitably going to create this divisive system, and the first past the post voting is almost always going to create the duopoly, and then we do the same thing in the LP. We created a duopoly, we created the same divisiveness, and it looks kind of the same. From someone that's like standing in the middle of it, I feel like a libertarian inside of the Libertarian Party too, because there's just like this weird duopoly thing going on, and I'm just trying to be like, hey, can we all like get along and fight the state together, please?
Right. No, and a lot of that though, it's some of it's inevitable. You're going to have people that are going to vote along not party lines, but caucus lines.
Mhm.
And I say that wearing a Radical Caucus button right now. People know I work for it, but I don't, and I actively avoid making that my hard line for who I'm representing. I do work for them because they are the ones that closest align to me. But I have voted for Prags, I have voted for Mises, I have voted for Audacious, I have voted for several people throughout the years, and it has nothing to do with the caucus lines. Again, it boils down to that's just the nuances, that's the human nature of whatever it is. But I do think that if we move to, because we already do a sort of runoff voting anyway for a lot of our LNC positions and everything, but I feel like it could be improved upon to the point that we could feel that that more capability, more.
Oh, I lost you. All right, and we're back. Man, internet's
My
fun.
internet's fun. Yeah.
Gotta love that technology we're talking about.
Right. You know, I don't know. Maybe that was the duopoly. That was the NSA telling us like they need to calm down.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so, but no, where I think I might have trailed off was, you know, we do already do a sort of runoff voting for LNC positions, and improving upon it, looking at alternative methods and creating that capability to make the individual's voice heard in the party of individuality can absolutely create that or foster that environment of building alliances across philosophical lines. We're all libertarians. We're all obviously there spending bukus of money, probably 80% of us don't have, to get there and make a difference in this country. We all deserve to have our damn voices heard. And this, and you know, we can pick the best option. And I utilize it. I say it that way because there is no better option. There's only the best, in my opinion. Because again, we are all libertarians, and they're trying to fix this country. So we find the better or the best option and put them in place. But we also don't negate that there are other people that need that are voicing their opinions, have their second and third choices that they feel best represent them. We do that. We represent the body of the Libertarian Party the best way, because we have created an environment where they do still get a preference put in place, even though it may not have been their first one. So to me, that is something that until you actually had brought it up to me, that was something that I've always dabbled in myself, but I had never honestly considered maybe incorporating it into this. But then when I brought it up to the staff here, that was something we started researching and looking into. You know, on top of like reading all sorts of parliamentary procedure books that are alternatives to Roner and everything like that, I've been reading into the different styles of voting systems and how they do it in different nations, how they do it in different political organizations, how they even do it in certain private organizations, which kind of bleeds and bends into the parliamentary procedures. And I want to touch on that too with the parliament. I do think that there is a time and place for how Robert's rules are applied. I think for 1,000+ people, maybe giving the chair a little bit of a dictatorial, as some people have put it, position to keep the meeting flowing and keep it from getting too out of hand. Maybe it does have its place, but that's not going to stop me from finding a way to still, my goal is to make sure the delegates and the membership, and those are they're distinctive groups, because not all members are going to be delegates, but we need to be able to make sure that their voices are heard as well. And doing it and getting hung up because there's one delegate from somewhere that, you know, wants to sit there and focus on whether or not there's the correct article in a sentence is not doing any service to the Libertarian Party. And, you know, again, it's their voice and they have a right to voice it. But I do feel like if we're going to get modernized and actually become that formidable fighting force, we need to come up with new methods, and we need to develop and start implementing them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I know this is more of a treasurer question than a secretary one, but something that's kind of been scratching at me, and actually one of my friends brought it up the other day because she went to lp.org for the first time after the clubhouse room with Spike and Dave and Justin last week, and she was the idea that you have to pay to be a libertarian, to be a member, to even like really interact with the party is kind of weird. She was like, wait, you have to pay a tax to be a libertarian? I was like, oof. So I'm curious, how do we without like getting rid of what is one of our main funding sources as a party, how do we help get people that are just enrolled libertarians and maybe not actually members of the party more involved?
Well, I personally fully believe, and again, I'm not running for treasurer, and I am the treasurer for outright libertarians, but we still like let people in as members for free, and or give them like a more affordable payment plan to join, like as like paying members. But that being said, I like with the national party, I fully believe that we are made up of people who actually give a shit about people. And if it came to it, I mean, I've witnessed it. I've done it for my cousin in Oklahoma. I'm willing to pay, or at least donate to pay for somebody's membership for this party. I've watched people help pay for lifetime memberships for other people. It's one of those things. I fully believe that if we're actually sitting there and trying to get this done, along with helping fund what we're doing, you're also bringing another voice in that can make our voice louder. I truly believe that we can unify on that front. And as I wouldn't say that the person has an illegitimate qualm, because honestly, I've thought about it too. Like I've never put it that way. You have to pay a tax to be a libertarian. I mean, kind of an amusing way to put it. But that would be something like, I feel like we could discuss and absolutely like, bring up at the LNC level, and maybe find out if there's a way to implement some sort of like scholarship. Not using that term, but you know what I mean, like implement a way to help people who are not of means be able to come and be part of it, because that is a mutually beneficial transaction at that point. And I truly believe that with the way we are as a movement, that could be something that could absolutely be nothing but successful. So
I like that. I might have to talk to Todd, have him put that in his treasurer platform. It's weird. It's a weird kind of stumbling block that I am honestly not a member of LP National for that reason. I joined in 2016. I paid my dues when I enrolled. I registered to vote, enrolled Libertarian, and then went straight from the DMV website to the LP website and bought a year membership. And I have not renewed it since, because every time it comes up, I'm broke. And it's like, well, nope, not doing that this time. Like, I feel like I'm a part of I'm part of the party already. I don't feel like I need this little badge that says that I am. But on the other hand, it's the last year. So there's a weird trade-off there, and that actually was kind of annoying, because I missed the cutoff and didn't realize it to purchase my membership last year and become a delegate. I was actually on multiple candidates' delegate lists from New York. None of them won the primary because it ended up being Hornberger, but that's beside the point. That's a whole other interesting conversation. But
I'm kind of privy to that whole situation.
I just found it really weird that a bunch of my friends who are like also like left libertarians, like outright members and like Audacious Caucus members, were on his list, but I wasn't. That's it's interesting.
No, about the whole other aspect with another person, I think, that actually was delegitimized from the primary list, I think, from New York. Again, that's a whole conversation with a whole lot of tangents.
Oh, yeah. Board of Elections in New York is really fun, and it's really easy to fuck over candidates in New York State. We do it often. It's something that you plan on in New York. Like, everything gets challenged. Every single like ballot access petition gets challenged at least once, if not 3 or 4 times. We just submitted all of our signatures for New York City, and we're actually getting challenged a lot less than the duopoly candidates, which is weird. But like Andrew Yang's petitions are getting challenged like 8 or 9 times. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, we can't have
I
people
don't get the point of doubling up.
Yeah, no, if you can't have people trying to affect change, you gotta remember to keep them down in the dust. So, like, and they gotta learn.
Right.
I think that's the New York State motto.
It's pretty accurate. That's why I'm trying to get out of here. So
offshoot of that, if you guys do any ballot access work, I'm not a voting member, but I am an advisory member with our National Ballot Access Committee. I mean, you give me a ring, and we'll see what we can do, or whoever you got working your side. I talked to Tony DeRazio a little bit about it, and you guys got something like that going on. We'll do what we can to help. So
awesome. Yeah, there's been a much better line of communication that I've noticed lately between like state and local parties and national and just the party in general. The lines of communication are significantly more open than they were when I joined, and that's been pretty reassuring. Could get better.
Right. No, I mean, you guys are a large state with a lot of people, and
oh yeah.
So I mean, yeah. And a lot of people in your NYLP or LPNY, excuse me. Like, so I mean, it's probably going to get muddied up. It's not going to be like here in Arizona where we've got a decent amount of people, but most of us all know each other. Like, I've talked to a few people up there in LPNY, and they like have no idea who the other person is, but I've been interacting with them for months. Like,
right. So. Yeah, it's weird. I had to go to a Mises Caucus event in Pennsylvania to meet my state chair for the first time. It's a weird scenario. Yeah, New York, I feel like that's another way on top of like the alternative voting thing. I feel like New York is another place where we can lead by example, and
sure.
Where like libertarians in New York, a lot of them, a very large majority of us are pro splitting up the state. So why don't we do it as a party? I mean, why do we as a party that doesn't believe in borders really at all function off of borders?
Well, most of us.
Most of us. All the real libertarians don't believe in borders.
Oh Lord, we're gonna start that argument here on Fight for Liberty. Huh? We're changing it. Fight for Scots.
That's actually one of my favorite conversations to have with people, because I was a bordertarian for a very, very long time. I went from bordertarian to anarchist. There really wasn't a phase where I was a real libertarian, or like that good
real
like real libertarian, like nice little minarchist that also it's hard to combine those two. I feel like it's either all, or it's you either believe in government or you don't.
Right.
And at this point, I've done too much interacting with it to believe in it.
Right, and that's the big thing. I also think it is a big regional thing too. Like, it's not that hard to meet somebody from, say, North or South Carolina that is a libertarian that has a little bit more socially progressive views. We've grown up around a bunch of rednecks, which before everybody gets mad, that's where I lived before Arizona. But we grew up around a bunch of these rednecks that are a little bit more conservative in their perspective on life and everything like that. So we develop a little bit more of the libertarian side of like the socioeconomic equity and everything like that. Whereas up in New York, and I've noticed like every time I traveled there and tried to talk to people or been in the discussion groups and everything like that, you guys have people who are libertarians who have grown up around these very liberal people who have a little bit more of a culturally amalgamated perspective. And therefore, your libertarians up there tend to develop a little bit more of the conservatarian side of things, which nothing wrong with either of those things, but it's like that's, I think, where those differentiations kind of develop. And, sitting there talking about what we're talking about, it's kind of crazy to me, like, as an anarchist myself who absolutely believes in no type of borders, personally, because I believe my own ability to defend myself if somebody malicious is definitely coming. We're gonna be able to handle our own, but that's the big thing. Like other people are like, well, we at least need some security there, so we don't have to like go through that trouble. I was like, don't cause trouble, and there won't be. So and it just goes down that rabbit hole of like little snippy comebacks at each other. Like, so it's a fun little argument, the real libertarian argument. So, but we're all real libertarians if we're actually contributing and getting shit done, and getting those voices out there and making change. Like, Christy Wickers has contributed to a lot to criminal justice reform. I'm trying to work here within the education system here in my little town of Peoria, trying to get in because they got a lot of stuff at changing their curriculum to be a little bit more honest about American history. And our pushback is, oh, you're teaching us to hate America. No, we're just saying you can love America, but you need to see some of the red flags. Like, but
you can't sugarcoat history. It doesn't work.
They sure as hell try. By the way, I'm dipping right now. Like, I see you smoke, so it's got me feigning a little bit. But yeah, we got people like, Dave Jones and Chelsea Baker and AJ Campbell in Tennessee. They're going around doing community outreach and build up and working in their area. People go out and they focus on what they're going to do, but we all have different views of what a libertarian is. At the end of the day, we're all fighting for the same thing. And that, again, boils back down to what I've repeated over and over again. Need to take my shoe off and make it on the desk. We will dissolve oppressive state. Like, so,
I'm really actually fired up. There's always been fighting in the LP, and there's always been like some people trying to like promote unity of some sort. Right now I'm kind of excited about the fact that the people trying to promote liberty are like most people's favorite people. Between like Amash, Dave Smith, and Spike Cohen, they make up a majority of the movement. And so if people just kind of do what their dude says, they're all preaching unity and working together and most of what you're saying. And hopefully their minions will follow along here pretty soon.
Well, and that's the thing, like, Spike, we were talking on, like, I just recently got on Clubhouse. One of the first ones Spike was on, he was like, I keep saying, like, you are the power. And, it was like working with him before when he was part of the Vermin team and everything like that. Like, when he says that, he actually means, and he reiterated this, you are the power. He's like, I'm not saying, like, it's not a platitude. He's like, you can do exactly what I'm doing. And a lot of people are taking that to heart. And a lot more people could be doing that. Yes, it feels good. It's like nice to feel that, but take that energy and run with it. Like, that's the thing. Justin Amash was willing to work with AOC on criminal justice reform. That was one of the, I personally can't stand it, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, but I think that was brilliant because at that point I was actually applauding her too. I was like, this is what we need to do. No, we're not going to come to a utopia tomorrow, but if we're going to get there, we have to come down to a radical de-escalation and decentralization. And the only way to attain that is through changing certain things in a radical way. And that is the only way we're going to do it. Like, we're not going to wake up tomorrow and Ancapistan or Compton or whatever people like little buzzwords are now. We're not going to wake up in that tomorrow, and we need to get over that fact and start realizing if we want to get to a freer society and get to that point. Adam Kokesh calls it localizing. If we want to get to that point, we have to start by sitting there and stop pointing our weapons at each other and turn it towards the people that are actually utilizing our conflict against us.
100%. I like, in the words of your opponent, save it for the state. I really haven't found a better way to say it than that. Her episode on Part of the Problem was probably my favorite episode of that show that I've ever seen. She knocked it right out of the park with a lot of the same stuff you're saying. So it's cool to see. It's really cool to see you compliment your opponent. That's something that people in the LP don't do very often. To say what you said about, whoever wins the LP or whoever loses the LP wins. That's an energy that we don't have nearly enough of. And I'm excited to see that from multiple people that are running in 22. I wish we could, I was hopeful to see it from the chair race as well. I don't know if we're going to, but a lot of the other races look like they're going to be kind of cordial and uplifting. And kind of like, I loved Oklahoma LP's chair race this past year was amazing. Kevin's fantastic. Rex is also a really, really cool dude. I hosted a debate between the two of them, and they both yelled at me for even calling it that because it wasn't a debate. It was just a conversation.
I can see that, actually.
And both of their like closing remarks were literally an endorsement for the other one. I was like, what the fuck is wrong? Do you guys realize you're running against each other? Like, does that not click? But all right. It was.
Well, I think one of my inspirations for keeping it that way, like it was always my intent to be that way anyway. Because when she was here in Arizona for our convention, I walked up and I was like, I don't mean like to intrude on you. I know you're here to observe, and you're trying to relax a little bit back at your table. But I just want to let you know I'm intending to run for LNC Secretary, and I just didn't want you to think that it was anything against you or anything like that. It's something I truly believe I can do, and I truly believe that we can help build this LP up and make it better. And she smiled and she was like, that's okay. Like, she's even been online, sitting there, and she, along with me, we both separately, this wasn't even like any type of private agreement, but we pretty much said anybody that supports us that wants to sit there and become vitriolic and nasty towards the other one, attack the policy, not the person, pretty much, or attack the person, not the policy, then we don't need your support because we're not going to do that to each other. And that is the bottom line. Like I said, and what was one of the most inspiring things about that was watching the Tennessee chair race where I announced officially and their race for chair between Tricia Butler and Dave Jones, because I know both of them. I've met both of them and talked with them a little bit. And, I've gotten to know Dave a little bit more than I have Tricia, admittedly. But either way, if whoever won that chair race, Tennessee was going to win. And I truly believe that for a lot of our positions that found the LNC that are coming under fire in 22, so to speak, are really just getting awash with rebirthing and, to steal from Kim Ruff, reigniting the brush fires of liberty. So I think that we stand to gain in 22, and whatever happens after that, 2024, the Republicans and Democrats need to know we're coming for your asses. So.
Fuck yeah. I'm curious how you feel about I know this is a contentious topic for some. How do you feel about the term length on the LNC? Are you someone who is in favor of extending it to 4, or do you like the 2 years?
I've really not thought of it. I've always looked at it as the membership and the delegates will decide who is best for the job. 2 years to me really hasn't been too much of a contentious issue. To be quite honest, I would probably, if that came to a vote, I would probably abstain, because one way or another, it doesn't really matter. It comes down to who can do the job that they're in. And if the person's doing a good job, whether it's 2 or 4 years, that person's going to get reelected. That person could get voted out. It doesn't matter. It's a matter of capability. Now, again, if it comes down to people are feeling underrepresented because, we do kind of vote out people every 2 years, that's something we can tackle as we come up to it. And we can sit there and discuss it. But that definitely needs to be, if that's going to be a thing, that needs to be held at a national convention where everybody can actually, or whoever wants to from across the country that comes in and becomes a delegate, can actually voice their opinion on it. And we need to listen to that, especially as national representatives.
I like that answer. I don't know, and if it came to a vote, I'd abstain. That is the best answer any politician could possibly give. I love that. More people need to say that shit on a campaign trail.
I kind of like my Ron Swanson. Like, if I can come in and do nothing for a day, then I've done my job.
I think we all actually. I started watching that show long after it finished airing and was already like a full-blown big L libertarian. So Ron didn't help push me into libertarianism, but it was definitely a nice reassuring pat on the back while I was watching. It's like, yeah, this guy's fucking great. Just representation in media at all is pretty rare for us. Growing up, the only times that I heard the words libertarian on TV was like Criminal Minds episodes. So like not exactly a great representation of us.
Right. Yeah. in that case, he was a libertarian.
Yeah, it's like Gadsden flags and lots of guns, and also likes to kidnap small children. It's like,
right, Careful, we just gave a little bit of our detractors some ammo there. It's a soundbite that's going to come back and bite us in the ass. But yeah, no, that's.
This show has created a lot of those sound bites.
But yeah, that's the big thing. Like, Ron Swanson is the perfect validation for somebody that's been in this for years. Because I didn't start watching it until after somebody suggested it to me when I was living in Indianapolis. They were like, "You should watch this show." Like, I started watching, and then I saw Nick Offerman's character, and they were trying to paint us as a caricature. But honestly, that kind of I think reinforced us a little bit, because there were people who aren't libertarians. Like, I like Ron. I get this and everything. So I mean, it's at this. I think we come to this weird intersection of they're trying to make fun of us, but they're actually doing us a favor by doing so at that point, because they're actually showing we are actually real people. We're unfiltered. We're gonna say some sarcastic shit when we think these ideas that government puts out are incredibly stupid. So. Yeah, it's just funny watching that, even in the media setting, how they're helping us grow our movement when they're trying to put us down. Even people when John Brennan looped us in with all the terrorists and everything like that, looped anarchists and libertarians and like that. Even people that are nowhere near shape or form that came in and were like, "That's what is this? That's a weird umbrella." I watched a little bit of that on social media. So again, it's this media, even if it's in a comedy like Parks and Rec or a press release by the former CIA guy, it's helping us out a lot. And if we can get people, and so far I think we've got a strong slate of people who are vying or sitting on the LNC, that we can reinforce the notions of everything that they defended us for when these funny things have come out. And I think we've got, again, that's that opportunity. They're just building it for us while we're actually reinforcing it. So,
yeah. I want to call back to one other thing that you mentioned in your plans, because you mentioned Porcupine and similar apps. And we've been using that here in New York to run our state committee meetings since I joined the state committee, which was in December. But I'm pretty sure we've been using it since our convention last year. And it's been just a godsend, really, because in New York, the government decided that we were a dystopian hellhole, and so meeting in person was just completely out of the question. Last September, we had our organizing convention, and there is no way that we could have done that in person legally, and we all would have straight up gotten arrested. New York was being ridiculous at the time. So we had to meet on Zoom, and doing that was going to be next to impossible without something like this. But now that we've been using it a lot more, and we've kind of tweaked some things and worked out some kinks, and people understand the system a little bit better, it's become very clear that it's also for in-person meetings, and you were talking about, just being able to actually zip through business instead of, nobody has to stand up and walk over to the microphone, and it's just so much simpler of a system. I think that if we can utilize our time better as a movement, just as a whole, we will solve a lot of the problems that we have. Because right now we're short-staffed, we're overworked. Most of us are on the verge of being burnt out most of the time, and we are spending so much of our day trying to do things that could be automated or done so much easier, or use new technology to make it faster. I guess to get to my actual question, that was a little bit of a ramble. How else do you think that we can utilize technology and to just streamline a lot of our systems, other than just having Caitlin do everything?
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah. That was the plan. Crap. No.
Careful, our heads gonna get too big.
No. No, I think touching on a little bit with the Porcupine thing, even because a lot of the detractors of that are what if the system glitches or on this particular vote or something like that. It's much easier to do that, have somebody or a team of people sit there and review what's going on and catch the glitch, and maybe circle back to that particular issue rather than halting the meeting as a whole for like 2 or 3 hours while you try to fix it. Get stuff out of the way, get the things that you can, and make note of that were actually accurate, get all the votes tallied, get everything, the motions and everything recorded, and even setting up like an automatic system that will send out notes and minutes as they are edited and everything like that, you know. So, and when it comes down to it, like you get an official or a starred email, like this is the final report, this is, you know, this is the final edit, this is the final thing that's been happening, you know, keeping it transparent, letting them know what's going on, leaving no room for questioning or error or suggestions of ulterior motives or anything like that. That is the big thing I think that we need to work towards. Utilizing apps, sure, there are some security pitfalls at some point, but that's the whole point of developing them. We have to get to a point where we either accept our state of mundane obscurity, or we have to sit there and actually power it, trial and error, try to develop, try to become that force I know we can be. I know that a lot of us know we can be. We have to continue to push forward, continue fighting, continue showing we actually can and actually will change this country. And we can actually do it so efficiently that we can make the other political parties, while they're fighting each other and blocking each other's candidates, like, you know, they're doing in New York, you know, they're sitting there fighting. We're not doing that. I don't think we've ever tried to do that in my knowledge anyhow. And like, we can actually become and utilizing this modernization with that transparency, because it wouldn't just be libertarians looking up this information at that point. It would be people looking for, and whether we like it or not, looking for an organized structure of people that are actually a political party, you know. So that, to me, right now, working on and researching and looking into different types of applications, different types of methods, even web programs and everything like that, that I would be able to use in my administrative position. Maybe we can eventually develop that to where we actually can get the chair, whoever that may be, to be able to like talk to the membership on a regular basis, and do so just by sitting there like they're typing on Twitter, like, you know. Yeah, we've got Facebook pages and stuff like that, but we don't have like a direct means to talk to people. We have the emails communications list, and we see LNC members all the time. We get the funny emails and everything like that. But that being said, it will open up a more trusting membership base. It will build the cohesiveness of the party. It will bring us to a point where we can't be ignored anymore, and we don't look like a gaggle of idiots just screaming taxation is theft at everybody we see. So,
but I like screaming taxation is theft at everybody.
Well, I mean, I do too, but you know, most of the time there's a lot of bourbon involved, and I'm actually sitting with somebody that's part of the duopoly. Like, but
there is that. So we have a question from the comments. With you running for secretary, what changes or improvements do you think that you can bring to the position itself?
Well, one, we've kind of touched a little bit on the I don't want to go down that whole trope again, but most of it's been mostly modernizing and making it more efficient, getting information about our meetings out quicker, providing the voice for the membership. Should I see something, because secretary is an administrative position, let's be real. The improvements solely should be on improving how the administration actually functions. And again, it's not anything to cast aspersion on Karen Ann or anything like that, because we all are busy things that we're doing. She works with the historical preservation side of things. I do a lot of traveling, working with that and everything. But I do believe that if I were to be elected in Reno, my sole focus would be making the delegate glad they trust, focusing on that alone. This isn't to say I would stop any of my activism. This isn't to say I would stop traveling to help other affiliates out. But it would be my focus to absolutely make sure that questions that the membership had or any questions that the delegates had, I would be able to without a doubt answer them. You know, again, I have no problem giving my personal number out. You have a question about what's going on, or what you have a question about a vote that was had on the LNC, you can reach out to me. That would be my focus point, because that would be my job at that point. So I give a simple answer. My plans to prove it are to become the most extensive we've probably had in a while.
All right. I think that it's the assumption that running against an incumbent means that that incumbent is terrible, or that they're not doing their job well enough, or something like that, is kind of a flawed logic. You know, we can improve on good things. And, you know, I got a lot of flack last week for endorsing Todd Hagopian for treasurer for similar reasons, because, you know, oh, but the treasurer we have now is good. It's like, yeah, he is. But I think that, you know, we can make improvements on the people that have been here for quite some time. The person doesn't have to be doing a terrible job to get replaced.
Absolutely, and I actually have no qualm with Tom or Tim. I have absolutely no qualm with Tom or Tim. I think they're arguably good positions. I mean, they both know how to work finances. They both have their own anecdotal existences and personal lives that warrant them being good for the position. And I personally don't have a preference at this point in time for that for treasurer, but even if I did, that's my vote to give. Oh, we there? I can't hear you.
Oh, I was muted. We're good.
Okay. But yeah, even if I did pick one, it's not just in the eye of the other. That's what I was around about too. So.
Yeah, it's a weird scenario of defensiveness and stuff, when, you know, to go all the way back to how you started it off, like the whole point of this is to be working together to fight the state as best as we can. So that means getting the best people that we can have in the positions where they will do the most and utilize their skills to the best of their ability, and, you know, move the party forward. I 100% agree with you. I think that we can be the most formidable force in politics in America within the next few years, and that entirely hinges on people doing what they're good at a lot.
No, and absolutely, and that's the whole point of it, because, you know, whichever one wins, she can be replaced with me. Like, I know she's going to do great things with the historical information and getting information to new members I want to know what we're about. If I happen to not win and you know, she stays in, I'm still going to go around the country. I'm still making it a point to get around to office state at least by the end of 2023. And helping out in some capacity with, if not their state affiliates, one of their local affiliates. I've been to Tennessee twice this year. I'm in Boston in July. I've talked with a few of the Illinois party, and they've got some pride events that I'm going to get to this month that we can actually raise the money for it. This isn't just convention hopping. This is absolutely trying to secure a means of bringing state affiliates together to absolutely reach out to other people who otherwise would not have been at us. One of my favorite things last Tennessee, somebody was like, you know, I've never actually heard of you guys, but, you know, I'm looking at this, you guys are speaking truth, and this is amazing. And to my knowledge, like, you know, he's actually trying to communicate with the state party, and like all it takes is one. And, you know, Brent Bitter says if you get 1 out of 8 people to say yes, the party's made an impact, because then again it begins a domino effect, because then they're going to start talking to their friends, and then 22 new looking into it, not signing up for their state affiliates. So.
Yeah, hell yeah. It's a similar.
It froze again.
Oh. Are we there?
There you are.
There we go. All right. Yeah, I feel like it's a very similar mindset. I say this a lot, to like evangelism of, you got to sow seeds, and, you might not always be the person that gets to see the thing grow, but it's about being that as often as you can and planting as many seeds as possible. And some of them are going to grow. Like, it's just an inevitable truth. And, unfortunately, it works the same way in the opposite. Just one bad interaction can start a chain reaction of like them. Now they're going to go tell their friends like, oh, this libertarian was a bitch and fucking called me names and did all these other things. And now their friends don't like libertarians either. So it's something that we have to be kind of ever conscious on if we're trying to spread the message, if we're calling ourselves libertarians publicly, and like that's part of our persona and that's what we're doing with our lives. We're unfortunately kind of called to a higher standard of behavior as well.
No, absolutely. And we are the gold party. We should be the gold standard. So, I mean, that's a little bit of a trite, adage, but we should be like.
100% agreed. Well, before we wrap up, I want to give you a chance to tell people how they can help out the Arizona Party, your race for Senate or for Secretary. What all the other things that you're involved in. How can people get more plugged into the movement?
Well, I mean, if you're down my way, the Arizona Party, I believe we're having a state meeting this Thursday. I'll be posting that information all over different social media platforms. I'm on Instagram at TylerForSec22. I'm on Twitter as @SassyRadical. Facebook, Tyler Smith for Liberty, I believe is the @ for that, for my personality page. If you want to donate, I do have a Venmo business account, so everything is recorded, everything is kept up to date. This isn't like, you're just donating and you don't know if that money is going to anything. It's actually going to this account, which helps fund my traveling and helps out if some of the people on my team are actually traveling and getting to places I can't. They can, give me a call and we can get them money as soon as possible to like help with their lodging, their food, gas money. And anything that we have in excess come Reno 2022, I've talked with my staff a little bit. We're going to try to divvy up if we have enough to various charities of their choice and donate to them. That being said, if anybody needs to get a hold of me, like any of the recent social media platforms I put out, I think most people probably watch this have found me one way or another. And if they haven't, like I said, just reach out to David here, because obviously you guys like him a lot. So, and he's got my contact information too. Like I said, I have no qualms with my email or my number or anything being handed out. Let me know what your thoughts are. I'm absolutely open. I'm trying to walk the walk in terms of transparency and accessibility. And anything that anybody has, feel free to reach out and ask me. And let's do this shit. Let's tell them Republicans and Democrats that we are coming for their asses in 2024. So
let's do this shit. It's a great message. I loved in Spike's little video that he put out for the 1-year anniversary, that little clip of, all right, let's do some revolution shit.
Yeah, no, and that's
I
love that, because that was a big hashtag that a lot of the people in the Tennessee party were using for when they were doing stuff, just revolution shit, off the just girly things. I loved it. I was like, that's amazing. So
I love it. Yeah, hashtag revolution shit is my new favorite hashtag.
Absolutely,
by far. Liberty Unity was cool. Revolution shit is a little bit more fun.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Also, anybody that's doing Pride events, especially there in New York or anything like that, just to plug Outright Libertarians, we are actually not a caucus. We are a charity and education foundation. We have stuff that you can talk to us. I'm their treasurer. We got Chase Aller as our fundraising director, who you had on last night. And you can reach out to us and we can see about getting you some stuff to sell at your tables and stuff like that. Partner with us and we'll help you get that message out there. We've been supporting this since 1971. and we still support it. We don't have any qualms about helping gain recognition. We've seen bipartisan efforts to put down transgender and other GSM folks across the nation. Bipartisan includes the Democrats who claim to be about that. We are actually doing it. We're walking that walk, as I keep saying. So if you want help with your Pride events and your local affiliates or anything like that, reach out to Outright Libertarians and give us, we'll talk to you. We got Ari Gabrick as our outreach director, me as treasurer, and again, Chase is our fundraiser. So
yeah, and shout out to you guys. I was in a conversation earlier today where somebody asked for advice on hosting a Pride event, and I said reach out to Chase and Outright. And within like an hour, the event was planned and like good to go. I was like, oh, okay, all right. Guess you did that. All you needed was that advice. You didn't actually need my help. That's more fun.
we do have a good donor base. We've got money that we're willing to help out with, because we are absolutely about bridging the gap between the GSM community and libertarianism. Because again, who else to reach out to than the people that actually said enough to release brutality and started fighting back? So,
yeah, I made a post earlier today about Pride Month in general, and just how, and actually Chase went on a beautiful rant last night on the show about how like Stonewall is like the most libertarian like event in our country for quite probably since 1776, and how like the entire movement, like Pride in and of itself, is just born out of rebellion and sticking up for yourself, pushing back against a tyrannical police state. It's like the most libertarian thing that you could possibly celebrate.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's generally the consensus amongst a lot of us at Outright, and that's part of what inspires us to keep fighting over there. So I couldn't agree more.
That's great. Well, Tyler, thank you so much for coming on. This was solid.
Yeah, no, it was an honor, and thank you so much for having me. Again, anybody wants to reach out to me, like, feel free to post the contact information or anything like that. Like, they can get a hold of me. So.
Yeah, and his Twitter is scrolling across the bottom, so go follow him on that. All the other things that he mentioned, go figure out what he's doing, and then reach out, because he's a cool dude. Thanks so much for watching, guys. We will catch you back here next week, Tuesday, 8 p.m. Until then, keep up the fight.